It is now time for the Port Podcast. Three, two, one. We are rolling. Welcome back, everybody, to a very special episode of the Port Podcast. I'm so excited to be here with Craig and Wayne Long, Member of Parliament here in St. John. I'm so excited, Wayne. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode.
Happy to be here, Kate. Thanks for this initiative, and it's certainly a pleasure to be here with Craig, too.
And it's been a long time coming. I know, you're always doing work with the Port, always doing such great work for the St. John region. I really want to dig into a little bit of that, but I'm really glad to have you here in the studio.
Yeah, I think everybody, certainly in the city and really the province, recognizes the impact that, the Port's growth has had on our region. And, obviously it's no secret my office is in Market Square, and it's just pleasure to look out basically every day and see activity at the Port. And the ships, the container ships, the cruise ships, it's just something to behold. We are really seeing an era of Port growth and strength that is just so good for the whole region.
And Wayne, you've lived and worked here. So what is it like doing the type of work that you do alongside Craig, people like at the Port? What's that work like for you?
Well, as a member of Parliament, obviously your job is to, represent your riding, to go to Ottawa. And my background is business. And
right.
It was always, for me, the reason I wanted to run was to go and advocate for St. John and Rothesay, and obviously the Port is a big part of that. So I knew I had work to do. I knew that the Port needed funding. There was applications that were in, through Trade Corridor that, were put in through the previous government, but we pulled them through, through Treasury Board and got them funded. And it's just something so proud to be part of. You just look across and you see the containers, and I'm going to ask Craig a question right now. Is it TEU or is it TCU?
TEU. And look at this. Wayne's asking me questions now.
We learn something new every day, right?
And TEU is 20-foot equivalent unit.
Yeah. See, he knows.
He knows what's up.
He knows.
But look, I certainly don't want to age myself here, but I remember an era where the Port had, cars and containers and a lot of growth and a lot of activity. And then, obviously in the early 2000s up to 2015, there was obviously a lessening of ships and growth in the Port. It was kind of sad to see. You just see basically empty docks and very few ships in. But, just when I drive over the Harbor Bridge now to West St. John and look down, and you just see the activity and the cranes, and not 2 cranes, but 4 cranes, and ships coming and going. And you add to that the cruise ship business, and it's pretty exciting that we're having a cruise ship
tomorrow
in over the Christmas season. But it's just phenomenal. And we all say it, as the Port goes, so does our city, so does the province. The economic activity, the contribution to GDP is just phenomenal. So it's congratulations to Craig and his team. We're, like I said earlier, we're just in the middle of an amazing era of growth for Port St. John, and really the best is yet to come, right, Craig?
No, totally. And Wayne, I got a quick question as we get into this. You talked a little bit about our, the infrastructure journey we've been on and your role in that in 2015, but maybe share a little bit from your perspective, because I know you're a strong advocate for the unions in St. John. And we had Pat Riley on one of the shows earlier this year, and we obviously have mutual friends in Terry Wilson and Brian Duplessis and others that are part of the union leadership. Right. Maybe give us a little perspective of what this growth means for the union and your interaction with them over the last few years.
Yeah, and to your point, obviously the guys at, ILA and, Pat Riley, certainly a name is synonymous with the Port. And it's jobs, and it's work, and it's hours of work. And I know people who now, have applied and are working at the Port. So it's growth, it's opportunities. These are well-paid jobs that, contribute to our economy, and people will, buy houses and buy cars. So that growth in jobs, like I say, we invest as a government to set the table. That initial investment, I would argue, set the table for DP World to come in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. DP World is a whole different level, obviously, port operator worldwide. Because they came in, obviously there's growth in containers. Mm-hmm. Because of that, there's growth in rail, CP. It all fits together. But that's what we do as government. We invest, and people would say, well, it's expenditure and it's taxpayers' money, but that's a perfect example of whether it's the initial investment of well over $100 million, $200 million, and then obviously the recent one for phase 2.
Yep.
We've got some other good news hopefully coming here very, very soon. It's money well spent. I mean, like I say, it drives growth, it drives economic activity. There's spin-off jobs. It's good all around, and I'm very, very proud to be part of it. And just last but not least, it's so nice when I speak about Port St. John at caucus.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Finally.
Yes.
That wasn't the case when you first arrived.
No.
That was going to be my next question.
It was always kind of and hopefully they're going to grow and stuff. And now, I mean, the guys at Halifax, MPs with Andy Fillmore and Darren Fisher, like we kind of have a friendly rivalry there. And they're just like, man.
Well, there's a bigger picture. There's a bigger picture to be discussed now. And I think it's because you made a plan, you made sure that it was backed by data, you made sure that you worked with the best in making those reports and understanding those phased projects. And now, like you said, we're getting people jobs. It's a place that I'm still proud to live and work here in St. John. I'm excited to tell people who have never been here before to check it out.
Yeah.
And I think when they're seeing the photography of our waterfront and they're seeing what we're doing from a culture standpoint, from a growth standpoint, just in all aspects of community, affordable housing, poverty initiatives, I think that's a very, maybe sexy isn't the word, but I think that's a very, very nice thing to have when you can kind of do your checks and balances on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, I've, remember like the Al Soppet era.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I remember when Jim Quinn came in, and Jim, I remember I was at that point president of the St. John Sea Dogs, and Jim came in and, bought some season tickets and talked about some sponsorships. And obviously now we're in the Craig Estabrook's era. And I mean, it's, each era has its people, its focus. And, what we're seeing now is, I mean, obviously, you're young, you've got energy, you've got a business mind.
Some days I don't feel very young anymore.
True. But I mean, look, you're there now to take the port to a different level. The port is clearly going to that level. And, we just talked about TEUs. I mean, is 900,000 in the sites?
Well,
Spill the tea, Craig.
I will share. We just did some year-end recaps, and we're reflecting on 2023. And obviously, there's been some challenges this year. One in the container sector is global trade is way down. Specifically Pacific trade.
Okay.
As it relates to the West Coast of North America, we're seeing upwards of 15 to 30% down. So we obviously hit a high water mark in 2022. 150,000 TEUs was the largest year by far in the history of the Port of St. John. Pat Riley remembers an era in the very early 1980s where we hit our container peak, where we may have done around 100,000 TEUs with a lot more small ships and higher frequency than we see today. So 150 last year, by far the biggest. There's 5 container ports in Canada: Prince Rupert, Vancouver in the West Coast, Montreal, Halifax, and St. John. We are going to be the only container port in Canada up year over year. We're going to be between 153 and 155,000 in 2023. So that sounds like modest growth, but you got to put in context, in a year where the whole world's down and global trade is going through some significant challenges. As we speak today, the Red Sea and the Suez Canal is entirely shifting. Trade is going around Africa. Maersk, CMA, CGM, Hapag-Lloyd, MSC, the big container lines are no longer transiting the Red Sea. The world, where we live in a world, and you would deal with this every day, Wayne, in Ottawa, of tremendous turmoil, and trade and supply chain is not immune. So I think the fact that we've withstood such a challenging year in 2023, and we're going to be the only Canadian container port to grow, I think just puts us in such a good position as trade rebounds, the economy improves in 2024, which everyone's projecting at this stage. I think we are going to be off to the races. And I often say we're very similar to Prince Rupert in their growth story in the 2000s, when they went from a very, very small container port. They withstood, the big challenges of the 07, 08, 09 recession. And then after that kind of hit the springboard. I think that's what's going to happen here in 2024 and beyond. So 800,000 TEUs is what your government has invested in our port to get to. But with DP World's help, different layouts at the terminal, even with the existing infrastructure, we may be able to touch beyond that from a fluidity standpoint, just with new equipment.
That's amazing. I mean, again, I know phase 2 and basically filling in, I guess for lack of better words, some of the slips, but you just turn around and you're just overwhelmed by the amount of containers. And I mean, I always kind of drive and like, how do they keep those straight? Like, how do you know what's where and what goes on what ship and what goes off? But hats off. I mean, look, ILA is obviously motivated. They're training. The new cranes are spectacular. The simulator blows you away. I mean, you're literally playing a video game.
So how were you on the simulator?
I just watched. I was
Can
afraid.
relate.
I was afraid it was going
to
to
watch too. Oh, come on!
I still feel the inertia of the heights. I don't do well with heights.
Yeah, me too.
Ask my team.
Yeah, me too.
Anytime we're out on an adventure, I do not do heights.
Yeah. But it's spectacular. So I'm going to ask you another question. So will there be a point where an operator of those cranes loading and unloading will just be in an office? Like, are we close to that era?
There is technology that exists in other parts of the world where the crane operator is not in the crane.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. I think a lot of folks would tell you if the longshore trainers were here and some of the DP World trainers, from a productivity standpoint, as great as all the technology is, there's something about being
in the crane
and seeing the movement. And we're in such a dynamic tidal range here with everything moving so frequently. I think having someone in the crane has served us well. Like, our productivity and our KPIs are really, really strong. And I think that's because of the institutional knowledge that's been built here over so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these new cranes came in and kind of, very easy. I shouldn't say easy. Any transition's difficult when you're learning new equipment, but from what we could tell, everything went exceptionally well.
Okay.
So, but yeah, technology's growing at a fast pace.
So is there a point where you would have 4 cranes operating at once? Or
yes. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. We've had it happen.
Okay, I've not seen that.
Yep.
I've not seen all 4 kind of coming and going. That would be something.
It has happened. It's been a little more rare. Typically, when we have 2 container ships in, we operate 3 cranes at a time, and it's about labor hours and kind of balancing the needs of each ship.
Fascinating. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you again. Just to touch on ILA and the team over there. Great people. So proud. I mean, obviously, I'm a West Sider. Yeah. There's a, West Side vibe of pride. We used to call the Lower West Side, and I grew up near Martello Tower. But, like, everybody is just so pumped at what they see and what the future holds. I mean, everybody talks about Port St. John. It's a great, great space for you guys to be in for sure.
Well, it's great advertising being able to go across the Harbor Bridge in both directions and see the growth. Like, we don't have to explain it as much because people can see it.
Oh, yeah.
It looks very different than it did, 5-7 years ago.
Well, I mean, just what would they call it? The skyscape or just the landscape. You're coming up by... the Walmart in West St. John and coming up over the knoll, and you see the 2 big cranes. And I mean, from my office now, you see the 4. I mean, it's like I say, we're the envy of certainly many other ports in Canada right now. And I want to continue the growth because, obviously Pablo Rodriguez is our minister. We talk about Port St. John. I mean, you were just in Ottawa last week. You see Port St. John on my whiteboard. I mean, there's some pretty low-hanging fruit for members of Parliament to make sure they spend time on, whether it's Port St. John or, the Irving Group or, Southern New Brunswick Railway or, the airport, what have you. But, for me, it's an easy advocacy because the projects are always well done. The asks are right. You come in, on time, on budget. Like, the Port St. John's got a great reputation. So, for me, just keep the applications coming. I'm not going to be there forever. So
get that on record.
We've got an exclusive. Here we go.
Yeah, keep the applications coming in. I want to be a part of, more funding and more growth for Port St. John. What's good for Port St. John is good for all of us.
Progress is awesome. And I know, like, Craig and I, we both went to school at St. John High. We talked to our audience about this quite a bit, but obviously living and working here, there's always been a sense of pride, whether it's about the history of the city back in the days 100 years ago or now. And I think one of the things that makes me happy in the year I've been kind of working here is really, really learning things from a different perspective. So I always looked at it this way.
Yeah.
I never looked at it this way, and really starting to understand how each chain of command works, whether it's the team over at DP World. For those of you that don't know DP World, follow them on social media. They're always showcasing their team.
Worldwide talent.
Giving a lot of people here in St. John amazing jobs. We met a crew of them last week, and they took us through the terminal just to kind of understand, like, who are they? What are the people at the office working? What are their names? How do they? But they do a great job on social, like letting people know who they are, what they're trying to do, and what they're trying to build. And I think one thing that makes me proud being here is seeing that, I lived and stayed. I saw that there was a present that I liked, that I still wanted to be part of, but now seeing the future state and seeing it actually happen. When you talk about the skyline, I was over in Forest Hills last week on like the very, very end, like Mystery Lake, and I could see the cranes, and it was the first time I seen them from over there. And I thought, wow, like, it's a different vibe for myself now as I go into my later 30s. I feel a lot different about talking about my city here. So as a member of parliament, like, can you talk to the community a little bit about what incents you to, really look at your constituency and be an advocate for it? Because a lot of people don't have to. They could simply do what they're supposed to do in their job descriptions and call it a day, right?
Sure.
But you have always gone above and beyond. What makes you do that?
Well, I mean, I came from a background of being in business. Obviously, I was involved in aquaculture and had an aquaculture business, and then morphed from aquaculture into the St. John Sea Dogs, where I was a minority owner and the president of the team. And like, I love my community. I care about my community. I wanted to bring a business attitude and an entrepreneurship background to politics.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we've had a great run of members of parliament in this riding, for, different parties and different eras. But I wanted to take more of a focused on advocacy for funding.
Right.
Now, you can go to Ottawa and you can give great speeches. You can do, the old SO31s, and I've obviously done a few for Port St. John. You can sit on committees. You can debate legislation, and they are all very, very important things that parliamentarians, members of parliament do. But again, I go back to my whiteboard. I wanted to go up with a focus on, okay, who needs what? Mm-hmm. Who do I need to talk to? What minister do I need to sit down with? What department do I need to go visit? What stakeholders can I bring to meet different people? How can I put proponents together with government? How can I open doors? And that's what I spend my time on. I have a thing called the week that was to week to come, the week to come. And every week I sit down with my team and we go through the week that was. And we go through everything we did, who we talked to, who we met with, the good, the bad, the ugly. Because in my life, you kind of get a little bit of all of it.
Right.
And then the week to come. And I'm always looking up at my whiteboard right there, not right there, but would be there in my Ottawa office, say, okay, Port St. John, right, I need to meet with Pablo about this. Or, St. John Airport with, Sandy, I need to advocate for this. And then we work with those projects. And I know that there's been certain projects and certain amounts of funding that have come to this region and this riding that came solely because I advocated for the projects. And I made sure, because every minister's desk or every department's desk has a pile of projects this high. Well, I make sure that project is pulled out of here and put there. And I remind, and I know, Mark Garneau said it when he was here once, and obviously Omar said it too. It's like, God, here comes Wayne Long again.
Dominic,
like,
hey, better to be constantly reminded and get really good work done than to be around.
And it's
I don't know if
easy.
that's the best way to say, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and look, we've got obviously an entity here with great leadership, and they do great proposals and great projects. So it's fun, but it's easy to pitch and lean into, Port St. John's projects because they're generational. Like what's happening over here is going to change our community forever. It's a good thing. So that's what I wanted to do. I want to deliver funding. And I mean, I think, obviously there would be people that would disagree with this, but, there's been well over $1 billion in, the 8 years I've been there. I'm in my 9th year.
Wow.
I was kidding some of the guys. I'm a bit of in my final run here as member of parliament, I'm kind of going through the stats. I think I was telling you this, like Elsie Wayne was the member of parliament for 10 years and 4 months. Well, I'm not going to hit that one. And next to Elsie was, believe this or not, Mike Landers.
Oh.
Well, Tom Bell. Sorry. Yeah.
No.
Like Tom Bell was far and above everybody. Like Tom Bell was there for 30 years or whatever.
He's a long deceased relative of mine.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Then Elsie, then Mike Landers.
Yep.
9 years, 4 months. Jerry Merrithew, 9 years.
Wow.
Rodney Weston, 8. So I've just bumped past Rodney for a couple of years, or for a couple of months, and working my way up. But look, I just wanted to leave a mark on the writing. And everybody's got their skills, everybody's got their talent, but my skills is just rolling up the sleeves. You see what you get, and I advocate hard for funding. And it could be funding for a courthouse or funding for Human Development Council or what have you.
Let's dive in on a little another piece of funding that you've been a key instrumental part, and it's a big part of our cruise program. So if we could spend a little bit of time with Kate and I asking you a few questions about the other side of the harbor. So we're obviously extremely proud. I'm glad we spent such a significant amount of time talking about container growth and the hundreds of millions of dollars that we've collectively worked towards, Wayne. But on this side of the harbor, with respect to the cruise business, there's been a transformation from the Marco Polo cruise terminal that we're in today right to Market Square. So maybe Container Village, obviously near and dear to our heart, and the work you've done at Funday Quay. Sure. Do you want to talk a little bit about the vision that you had back in the day and kind of the whole development as one?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was in aquaculture in particular, I got to travel really around the world, but a lot up and down the eastern seaboard. And I always marveled whether it was Portland, Bar Harbor, Boston, all of these cities, they had beautiful waterfronts. I mean, you look at Halifax and, sadly, I used to look out of my office and basically I'd see basically a dilapidated Coast Guard building and a parking lot. And God love it. I've been there and had many beers there, but the boardwalk, you'd look down and it's crooked and the decks were all different and they're held together with duct tape and it needed to be upgraded.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the port and Ray Gracewood, put a proposal in through ACOA for funding for Container Village. And, we were able to deliver that funding, and wasn't the only funding. I mean, obviously the province and the port were very involved with that. But, we wanted to start to be a part of redeveloping our waterfront. Because, as we know, it's one thing to get cruise ship passengers here. But we want them to want to come back. We want cruise lines to come back. And, we certainly, and I'm sure there's always, surveys and stuff like that about their experience in St. John. So it's important as a city that we're offering unique things for them. So obviously Container Village speaks for itself, focal point for the city lately. The concerts, the vendors, just the style of it, the uniqueness of it, the vibe you get there, unbelievable. So then you jump to the next one, and obviously the Fundy Harbor group, David Elias group, as I like to say, David and Chris, the Fundy Quay. And the Fundy Quay is going to be, obviously a, 5 to 10 year project. But you can see the pilings going in now. You can see the development that's happening there. The first phase is going to be like a residential apartment building.
Yep.
It's going to be absolutely beautiful. We've got Harbor Passage now that's, I just walked by, kind of curling around the whole thing. And then obviously the redo of the Loyalist Plaza, last but not least. I mean, that's going to be absolutely stunning when it's done.
It is.
New stage, it's level, the lighting, the outdoor skating rink, which we funded too. Like, it's going to be just such a beautiful addition and attraction. So you take, the Loyalist Plaza with Fundy Key, with Container Village. When you get off the cruise ship now, you're going to be able to walk along the waterfront.
Very
You're going to have shops and venues and, just things that people want to see. Like, people don't come off cruise ships to want to go to Walmart, or they want to see unique things that cities offer. Now, obviously, we're a city of, unbelievable historic treasures and historic riches. Fort Latour, Martello Tower, which, we've invested in heavily in both of those. But for me, I just wanted to try to have an impact on the waterfront. And let's call a spade a spade. I'm only as good as the projects and proponents that come my way. But I mean, gosh, it was easy to get behind these because, again, like, it's transformational, right? I mean, again, the port, like, you look at here and go wrap around. You got Fort Latour now. Like, there's things that people can see and be positive about, and hopefully that results in more cruise ships coming. So it's another good one that I'm proud to be part of.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing in the ratings since the cruise restart that having new assets like the Container Village and seeing the progress at Fundy Key and what I love so much about Fundy Key is, yes, David and Chris are going to do a tremendous job, but it's the community focus,
right?
Making sure that the path is done first and foremost so that people will have something to be able to enjoy next year. Same thing with the Container Village. It's getting local citizens in the community to enjoy it just as much as someone that coming in via ship or by another means for tourism, I think is so key.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's a wonderful opportunity. I mean, obviously, I came into this job in 2015, and, I'll be leaving probably, whatever, if it goes to full term in the fall of 2025. But what a wonderful experience for me to be in a federal position where I could go after funding for projects that are transformational for our riding. Like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I've been privileged to be part of it.
My grandfather taught me at a very early age, whether you're at someone's home or you're at work, to always leave something better than how it was left. And I think, beyond a reasonable doubt, above and beyond, you've done that. And I think it, you obviously, you live and work here. We've gone over that, but it must really make you happy to see St. John the way that it is now. And I think, when you mention giving people the experience, I mean, I've seen so many people, like we did a podcast with Natalie and Danielle Timmons from Aquila Tours. It really does take an entire community, and it takes every person really rallying towards the same goal, because it takes one little gap and one odd experience or one thing not being open for somebody to say that was a dud experience. Right. And with so much being, spent on marketing and tourism, I think it's so important to make sure everybody's working towards the same thing. And I just want to say thank you as someone who lives and works here. Yeah. You really do that. And thank you.
Well, thanks. I mean, thank you for the thank you.
Yeah.
But again, it's a team effort, and I was just happy to be part of it. And look, let's call a spade a spade. In 2010-ish, I've got two younger sons. And I think it's pretty safe to say back 2005, 2010, people couldn't wait to get out of here.
No question.
Like, you're young. You're not as young as they are, but, but there was that, I want to get out of here. There's nothing here. And it broke my heart because I love this city and I want people to be proud of this city.
Yep.
But people were just, I'm out of here. I'm going to Halifax. I'm going to Montreal. Like, there's nothing here. Like, it is 180 degrees different now.
It is.
People want to come here.
Yeah.
People from those communities are coming here.
I get so excited for friends and family from away to come back, and they're just, blown away, and it makes me really happy.
It is, and it's almost like 100%. I almost love it. Like, people I know, I've had some friends that, were in Calgary, blah, 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 and they haven't been back in St. John for like 10 years. I just wait for the call every time. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Very
like,
different.
I just walked around uptown and like, oh my God, look at the craft breweries, the restaurants, the vibe.
And I think it's because real love and real teamwork was put into real thoughtful planning and making sure that a bigger picture was looked after instead of just very reactive solutions.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, there's fringe, there's arts, like the arts and culture part of this community is exploding. And it's wonderful to see. I mean, like I said, I was a sports hockey guy, but I mean, you know, they always say as a community goes and grows, like the arts and culture community should go and grow with that. And it's happening here. I mean, we've just got a tremendous vibe. We've got tremendous youth. We've got the Imperial Theater that is just a beautiful facility. I mean, obviously St. John Theater Company. Hopefully we got some good stuff coming for them very, very soon. Just you can't walk uptown and not see the renewed sense of pride that we all have in our community. And obviously Port St. John is a big part of that.
There's a tenacity now, I think, amongst all entrepreneurs in our region to really try to support each other in the ecosystem so that if they have the data or they need more funding, they have the ability to kind of articulate that. Before we end, Wayne, I've got an important question to ask you.
Yeah, let's end with some fun stuff.
Before we end,
though, I just want to get one thing in.
Sure.
You two both said you were from St. John High School.
Yes.
Well, so was I. Oh. Now, my picture wasn't black and white. It wasn't color either. It was kind of like in the middle. And, you know, if you were like on one end of the hall, I might have been way down the other end in this kind of funky...
Wayne
So you're going
Long
to tell us
down
what
the
year
hallway?
you graduated? Or?
81.
81.
Fun, like this funky, like not black and white, but not color look with this big long hair. But I just want you to know I'm a St. John Higher too.
So you're firmly in the Dennis Nib era.
Oh, yeah.
Is that where you get your community spirit?
Yeah.
Hopefully
Ladies
we'll be
and
able
gentlemen,
to find that in the
the
archive
queen.
and put it right up here.
Oh, that's
But
funny.
anyway, yeah.
That's funny.
Yes.
Okay, now to some
Wayne-
fun
Okay.
questions.
My question for you is in regards to Area 506.
Yeah.
Who do you want to see play the festival?
Who's your dream performer?
Oh, well, my dream, but I would love to see, my dream performer. I mean, Blue Rodeo's been, Ray's had so many great acts there, the Strombellas. Who would I like to see that hasn't been here, though? Okay, I'll pass it, but I'll come back to that.
Okay.
You're going to pass on that one?
Give me another one.
What's one thing that people don't know about Port St. John?
Oh, I would think that just how many people it employs and what an impact it has on the just the economic impact it has in the riding. I mean, people see containers coming and going, but people don't understand that there's union and labor jobs that are loading and unloading those containers. There's truckers that are taking those containers out. There's the rail. There's, obviously the management side. So I think people really don't realize how big and what an economic impact a thriving port has on their community.
Love it. Well, I'll make the concert question easy, and we'll end on this note. You're a performer in yourself. I know you've been performing on the Kingston Peninsula.
I've tried to get Ray to sign me up, but for some reason he's
Ray,
avoiding.
if you're watching,
He's avoiding
Well,
my
Ray,
call.
got your show submissions,
I can't blame him.
So if you were the closing act some night at the Container Village, what would be the song that you would end the night on?
Ooh, good one, Craig.
100%.
I like that.
100%. I would end like people say that I kind of do songs that don't make people happy, but I would end it with Tom Petty's Free Falling.
Oh, I love it.
We love that.
We'll have to add that into the podcast.
We will put that in.
I would
to
say,
end this.
what was that, Man of War?
War on Drugs?
War on Drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. I want to see War on Drugs here. I mean, they were at Harvest.
Yeah.
Knocked the sock off. The other one I'd love to see is the record company. I don't know if you know them.
No.
Yeah.
I got a story about the record company, but they're unbelievable. Like, they just absolutely rock.
I love it.
Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Port Podcast with Member of Parliament Wayne Long. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, pleasure. I mean, I listen to podcasts basically every night, but I've never been on one, so thank you for the
Well,
opportunity.
there you go. And thank you all for listening and watching wherever you're listening and watching, whether it's on your streaming platforms, on YouTube. Thank you so much for your support, and we'll tune in next time. See ya.